Hey guys, what's up? It's your friendly neighborhood UberGoose here. I want to talk to you guys today about the new hero Pangolier, and more specifically, I want to talk about how I would like to mention that Pangolier is actually dramatically better than his win rate would indicate. And I have a game here for you. I might make a couple more of these videos showing some high MMR players. This is, oh Jesus Christ, I now remember why I turned unit speech off. That's just annoying. Anyway, so Pangolier. This guy is one of the two new heroes, him and Dark Willow. Dark Willow is on the other team in this game. This is just an unranked all-pick game, playing with 3 friends, and then we got a random player on the Meepo. And I want to talk about Pangolier. So first things first, this guy is an offlaner. Stop picking him and going mid, alright? Or safe, or whatever. I've actually seen more safe than mid, but I've seen both quite a bit. And everybody who goes safe lane or mid lane, they'll either lose or they won't have a dramatic impact on the victory, right? They won't have the mid or safe lane level of impact on a victory. Now, off lane actually is very, very good for this hero. And the reason that off lane is good for this hero, and I'll first, be the first to admit it, not very good against a full tri lane. So keep that in mind. And, I'm going to be against a full tri lane. It doesn't go well. But he is a good offlaner in 2-1-2 type of meta, or even if he's solo against a duo lane, he's actually very strong in that instance. He has very good escapes, and by that I mean just Swashbuckle, which is a very good escape. And then he has Shield Crash, which is basically the way that he's tanky, kind of similar to Timbersaw's reactive armor in a sense. Obviously, it's not exactly the same, but it serves a very similar sort of purpose. On top of that, he has passive Heart Piercer. I actually think that you shouldn't bother skilling this until both of these two are maxed out. And the reason that I say that is because nobody really gets enough armor in the early game for it to actually warrant Heart Piercer. The slow is nice, but it's not a consistent sort of a slow. It's much better to just get your Swashbuckle cooldown low and get Shield Crash to max level. Shield Crash is actually super underrated in how much damage it deals. It does 300 damage at level 4, which is a lot. It is magical, admittedly, but it is AoE. So it's actually better than most generic, magic spells at this, at the same amount of levels. And beyond that, of course, as you level it up, you get more damage reduction on yourself per hero that you hit with it, up to 14%. And as such, if you're against a duo lane and this is level 4 and you shield crash on both of them, you're taking 28% less damage as well as doing a 300 damage nuke to both of them, which is tremendous. And that the reduction duration is 10 seconds with the cooldown being 13. So if they actually stay on you long enough that they're attacking you when the shield crash buff falls off of you, then what happens is it'll be back up 3 seconds later and you'll be able to do it again. So I thought I saw the monkey jump more to the right, but I was mistaken, and he takes the bounty. Feels bad, man. So Swashbuckle is, of course, his other ability that I think is very good, and I couldn't tell you why he waited to TP so long. I mean, he just gave me first blood. It's just I couldn't tell you. If he TP'd out the instant he took the bounty run, he 100% lived, and I know that he was able to TP because I've seen him the entire game. He hasn't TP'd yet. Maybe he was out of mana, actually. I didn't click him. He could have been out of mana and just regen enough, but I don't know. So Swashbuckle, it's physical damage, and it does damage per strike, it does 4 strikes, and it does a dash, and then it has a vector target. Very good for damage and escape. It is very good for both of those purposes. At max level, it's 78 damage per strike times 4, which would be... Wait, I got this. Wait, no, I got this. Hang on. That would be... Wait, no, I got this. No, hold on. It would be... Why is my... This is actually the most difficult thing. I swear to God, the moment that you, begin to record or stream, all ability to do mental arithmetic vanishes. It is shocking. Because this is not a hard math problem, right? You take 80, you multiply it by 4, you subtract 8, right? That's 80 times 4 is going to be 320, and then subtract 8 is going to be 312. I did it. I got there. Don't worry. So it's 312 physical damage at max level. That is very good. It is worth mentioning, though, that if you are using it for damage, then you cannot use it for escape. So it is a high-risk, high-reward type damage skill. But you'll notice that I'm actually not leveling it first. The reason that I'm not doing that is because it costs more mana. Both of these skills cost more mana as you increase level, both 10 per level, which means casting both, no matter which one you skill, as long as all of your points go into one of these two, or as long as all of your points go into these two, in total, you're going to be spending the same amount of mana for the full combo. I like to level up Shield Crash all the way first, so the mana cost of Swashbuckle, my escape, stays lower. On top of that, maxing out Shield Crash first, it only does slightly less damage. Now, admittedly, like I said earlier, most people have pretty low armor. Everybody pretty much always has 25% magic resist. So Swashbuckle is actually quite a bit more damage than Shield Crash, pretty much at all times, at all levels. But there's more reasons to actually go for Shield Crash, right? There are more reasons, of course, being the damage reduction per hero. That's a pretty big one. And that pretty much clarifies that. I think the correct skill build is 3 Shield Crash, 2 Swashbuckle, 1 Rolling Thunder, followed by maybe, definitely 3 Swashbuckle, maybe 4 Shield Crash, then 4 Swashbuckle. Either way, you're going to have 4, 4, 0, 1 at 9, and then at 10 go for a talent. I think that is definitely the correct way to build. So you can kind of see, I'm being very well zoned out because the Monkey King is just living in this lane, and it's an Arc Warden. Arc Warden is really just an asshole in the laning phase to pretty much anybody at the start, and it's even worse to be a melee hero against Arc Warden. So, despite what I did say about him being a good offlaner, I will say he is not good against a tri-lane that has Arc Warden and Vengeful Spirit. Now, Venge obviously hasn't been here in a while. She went top relatively early, but the damage was done. It got the Arc Warden a level lead over me and makes it very difficult to contest. But I am, of course, still existing in the lane, still getting experience. I'm about to hit 4 off of this. Luckily, Arc Warden hit 6, but, I kind of juked him a little bit, made him put the Wraiths down way over there, and then hugged a creep so Flux wouldn't kill me. And I did actually want to chase, it's just that both of my cooldowns were, not going to be up really in time to do what I needed to do. And then here is Monkey King, Shield Crash to try and get the 10% damage reduction. Then Swashbuckle, could have Swashbuckled a lot further. I think it was a mistake that I didn't. But there is potentially benefit to swashbuckling closer, like I did, and that is it could have actually potentially baited the Monkey King if he had vision of me. If he saw that I did a very short swashbuckle, he might have tried to chase, considering I was very low, and potentially a free kill. So yeah, this Arc Warden did something pretty questionable. He didn't even buy brown boots. Like, he's just going straight for a Midas. Aquila into Midas is really confusing. Let's talk about items, though, on Pangolier, I suppose. So, for items on Pangolier, I think he has a relatively set item build, in my opinion. And that is, you want to start with an Orb of Venom, probably a Stout Shield for offlaning. And by start with Orb of Venom, I mean, either start with it. I think you can go Stout Shield, Orb, and Tangos. I think that's what I did this game. I wasn't really paying attention, but I think that's what I did. And I think that's a pretty good starting set of items. Then you want Brown Boots as fast as possible. You also want a Basilius, and then build it into an Aquila. The reason that I think Basilius/Aquila is actually so important on this hero is he is mana hungry as hell, right? This guy just chugs through mana because he has, 100 and 120 on his 2 skills, which both have relatively short cooldowns, are very important to actually, use them both all the time. Luckily, Monkey King went for the Boundless Strike on the Warlock instead of me, so I was able to escape. And so Basilius and Aquila, they're good because they give you a bunch of stuff, right? So Aquila gives you, it gives you 10 damage, 9 agility, right? Which is 19 damage because this guy is an agi hero. Gives you 3 strength, 3 int, which isn't the best, but it's still more stats. And then it gives you an aura of 0.5 mana regen and 2 armor. And 0.5 mana regen sounds like not a lot, But the way that mana regen works now is, as you can see, I almost have 50% increased mana regen. So any item that gives you mana regen actually gives you flat mana regen, and then int gives you percent. And the formula is as simple as taking the flat, total flat, and then modifying it by total percent. It's very, very straightforward. So even though 0.5 is a small amount, that ends up being 0.75, right? With pretty low int, admittedly. So any amount of mana regen is obviously relevant. And on top of that, like I said, the Aquila gives you int as well to make that percent even better. Let's see. I don't even remember if he gets this kill. I was telling him, like, he probably won't. Don't remember if he does. I'm watching health bars at the top. He did indeed get the kill. And then I came in here hot, and we pick up both of them. Storm, it didn't seem like he was TPing to base, because I think if he was TPing to base, he would have gotten out like a quarter second before he actually died. I might be incorrect on that, though. But yeah, you can see that the Aquila gave me like 4% mana regen, right? Did it give me more than that? I guess it did. Why did I mouse over it and it said a different number? Maybe it's because I just leveled up and I got the int gain. That's probably it. So it gave like 4% mana regen, on top of keeping the Basilius aura, which is pretty sweet. And then again, armor. Armor and magic resist have very positive synergy with shield crash, because shield crash just reduces the damage. And so reducing the damage and also having armor / magic resist is kind of, like layered defense, right? It's technically true that... Oh, look at that sick heal. And I was like, I'm turning around. Going back in. Storm doesn't know what to do, man. He's lost. Probably shouldn't have gone back in because the bench wanted my booty. But it worked out. Baited. Oh, look at that. Look at the team play right there. I got a Shadow Word and a salve from a teammate. Hell yeah. Both heroes nearly dying. Barely getting away. So, yeah. I think Aquila is very important. I like Orb of Venom a lot. If you don't know how Swashbuckle works, more specifically, so Swashbuckle applies all of your on-hit effects. Not literally all, but most on-hit effects. Swashbuckle is treated, for all intents and purposes, as an attack. It just does not scale with your damage, which is another reason why I think this hero is best as an offlaner rather than a position 1, because your spammable, your main like nuke spell, does not actually scale really at all with items, right? The most that you can scale it with is Diffusal Blade, which you can buy as an offlaner very easily, and then Maelstrom / Mjolnir, which, again, you can buy as an offlaner if you really want to go that route. But honestly, it's not even necessary. This thing does a lot of damage. Oh, yeah, and Javelin. I forgot to mention Javelin. So Casual Javelin is actually nuts for this hero. If you don't know how this works, so every attack has a 25% chance to have accuracy, right? So it's just straight up True Strike when it rolls the 25% chance. On top of that, when it rolls that, it'll deal 100 bonus damage. Magical damage, I think. Is it pure? Dude, stop clicking things, me. I can't tell. There's no alt thing. I think it's magical. I don't think I would be able to tell you if I could find it in shop. Oh, it's right there. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember if it's magical or pure. I think it's magical. I'm fairly certain. Regardless, though, presumably this is on PRNG, which is pseudo-random number generation, because pretty much everything in Dota is at this point, and as such, oh, that looked pure. Just said 100. Would have been 75 if it was magic. Sick. So, assuming it is PRNG, which again, pretty much everything in Dota is PRNG at this point, then that means that on any given Swashbuckle, there is a very high probability chance that I will get at least a Javelin proc, right? So there's 4 hits, it's a 25% chance. On average, that's 1 proc per Swashbuckle. But because of PRNG, the average 1 hit per Swashbuckle might be dragged a little higher. because the lower likelihood end is cut. It might stay as one average. It's just more individual swashbuckles will have javelin procs. Does that make sense? You'll get less multi-javelin procs per swashbuckle, but you'll also get less no javelin procs per swashbuckle if PRNG is indeed in effect on javelin, which I believe it to be. And if you don't know what PRNG means, basically it's just the more that you get the negative outcome, the higher likelihood of the positive outcome to occur, right? The future rolls are a higher likelihood. So say the first one starts at 25% chance, it might even start a little under 25% chance. Then the second one, if the first one didn't actually proc, will be maybe 32% chance, right? And then if that one doesn't go, then maybe like a 40% chance, right? It increments up every time it doesn't proc, so you feel more safe in actually getting procs in smaller numbers, right? And yeah, the sick thing about Javelin is that because Swashbuckle hits X targets, you know, it's roughly one Javelin per Swashbuckle per target, which is pretty ridiculous, right? That means on average the Swashbuckle will go from the 312 damage. I mean, look at Monkey King. I think I got 2 procs there. Look at what happened to his life. You know, I got slightly lucky, got a second Javelin proc on him. Expected number was 1, got 2, and then he just died. Dude just fell over. And that's just with, you know, level 4 Swashbuckle and Javelin. And then, of course, the level 4 Shield Crash to help on the magic nuking. But Swashbuckle did like half his life in damage. That's nuts. So yeah, even though Javelin doesn't really help this hero too much, like on a very base level, the synergy that it has with Swashbuckle is pretty ridiculous. What I do in this game is I end up I turn the Javelin into a Basher probably too early. I think you eventually want to go Basher, but keeping casual Javelin for as long as possible is really nice. The main reason that that's super nice is Javelin has no internal cooldown, while Basher does have a cooldown. Whenever you bash, it goes on cooldown for I think 2.5 seconds. I can check actually. I think I can check, right? 2 1/3 or 2.3 seconds every time you bash. So you'll only ever get 1 bash per Swashbuckle. And if you're hitting a creep wave as well as the hero that you want to hit, then the Basher effectively gives you nothing on that hero, right? You might bash him, but it's probably not super likely with all the other targets. And the moment that it procs a single bash on a target, then you can't bash anybody else. So keeping it as a casual Javelin before upgrading to a Basher, like maybe you just go Basher when you're ready to buy the full Abyssal. Maybe that's the way to go. I got no procs on her, but I halved her with my combo, right? Like, that's ridiculous. One other thing to mention about Heart Piercer is that it has anti-synergy with negative armor, things like Assault Cuirass and Desolator. And the reason for this is that it actually sets the unit's armor to 0. So don't pick this guy if you have a Dazzle, don't build Desolator, and don't build AC on this guy. Your team having Desolator and AC is still fine, however, because, you know, those are still good items for tower killing, and of course it's not on you. And I'm sure in some games it is totally reasonable to go those items on this hero in specific circumstances, but I think on average they're pretty bad on this guy, simply because he has Heart Piercer. So Heart Piercer effectively turns your physical damage into pure damage. Right, that's effectively what it does, which means the Swashbuckle will actually be 312 damage if they have Heart Piercer on them. Also, there's a pretty high chance of proccing a Heart Piercer from Swashbuckle. One more thing that's worth mentioning that you'll actually see a little bit later when I'm farming creeps, and by a little bit I mean maybe half an hour, is that Heart Piercer, if reapplied when the actual effect is in play, it will actually, the new debuff won't have to deal with the delay. So the way that it works is you apply the debuff, after a 2-second delay, it will then kick in a slow, and then they have 0 armor for a duration based on the level, right? And if during that window, if during the actual debuff window, so let's just say it's level 4, I hit a target, it procs Heart Piercer, 2 seconds later, they then have 5 seconds of the thing, right? That you saw above it, so no armor and a slow. If I then proc a Heart Piercer at any point in those next 5 seconds, it will fully reapply Heart Piercer. I think at a 5-second duration, but it might even be a 7. I'm not certain, I haven't tested. But I can confirm 100% that you don't have to deal with the delay on the later Heart Piercers, which is definitely worth mentioning, right? That's definitely something that is worth mentioning and makes his potential single target damage probably a bit stronger. Simply due to the fact that as long as he's sticking on a target, they probably will have somewhere around 100% uptime on Heart Piercer after the first proc, which is pretty sweet. So as you can see, I have my Diffusal Blade done. The reason Diffusal Blade is sick is because it burns 50 mana and then does 4/5 of that, so 40 damage for every hit. That is a lot of damage, and that works on Swashbuckle. So basically, whenever you Swashbuckle a target with this, it'll burn 200 mana and deal 160 additional physical damage, right? Bringing the full damage from 312 to 312 plus 150 is 462. There we go. So it brings it all the way up to 462. This is the highest damage item that you can buy that actually works with Swashbuckle. Now on top of that, you also have the active effect, which is no longer a Dispel. It's still called Purge, which is questionable, but it's no longer a Dispel, and it also no longer has charges, right? Which is, I don't know, I think it's better. You know, it allows people that have dispellable things to not just get hard countered with a, like, 3,000 gold item, but it also gives you the same full ganking potential as before, unless the gank potential relied on the dispel, which sometimes happened. So watch, I missed the storm, but watch in this fight what goes down. So I went for a quick thing, I then I messed up my shield crash. I didn't hit anybody with it, so I didn't get any bonuses from it, but then I just killed the storm, right? Like, I almost got 2 heroes there, but I just straight up killed the storm. There's a couple reasons why that happened. If we jump backward, so let's jump back again. Pay very close attention. I have a Warlock on my team, and you can see in a moment that he is going to go for a Fatal Bonds. There it is. It's on 4. And then I hit 2 with the Swashbuckle, who were Fatal Bonds together, one of which being the Storm. And that just did so much damage to the Storm, because this already does a lot to one target, right? And then you add the amount from the other target with the Fatal Bonds, right? Just tremendous amount of damage. So we can start talking about the talent tree. I haven't talked much about it. I don't even think I brought up the first talent, despite talking about his mana issues. So first talent, I think it's honestly no contest, right? You get 2 mana regen or 25 move speed, was it? Come on, click back on me, you doofus. Come on, idiot. Click back on me, please. It's okay, I'm alive in 5. Then I'll have myself selected. There we go. Yeah, 25 move speed versus 2 mana. You have to remember 2 mana isn't 2 mana. 2 mana is 2 mana plus whatever percent. In this case, 4 mana per second, right? And some change. So here, unfortunately, the Meepo died, but he did enough damage, and I moved in, and it ended up being enough. I walked into an additional route and nearly guaranteed my death. I almost got out with the Swashbuckle. So Swashbuckle is not stopped by stuns. So if you actually time Swashbuckle that you begin to jump right before a stun hits you, you'll finish the jump and get all of the attacks off at the new location, which is pretty sweet. And against a hero like Dark Willow, where Curse Crown has a very specific timing, it's very easy to actually get the Swashbuckle off if that, you know, is your end goal. So here you can see I went into Skull Basher, which I think was definitely a mistake. I think I should have gone for pretty much anything else first and just kept the Casual Javelin, because this did mean that my damage goes down quite a bit per Swashbuckle. But it does add control, and I did feel like we needed control, especially against Storm Spirit, so I decided to just go for it. I still think it was a mistake, though. So for level 15 talents, you have 30 attack speed versus 2-second shield crash CD in Ball. I think the Ball, or the shield crash cooldown in Ball is actually just undeniably the choice, even if you are position 1. 30 attack speed is not a lot, right? 30 attack speed is, I mean, it's a, okay, maybe not a lot is disingenuous. It's a decent amount, right? Hyperstone gives 55. But if we look at something like Gloves of Haste, that's 20 attack speed. But, you know, if you broke it down to its most simple way, right, and you look at Gloves of Haste is 2/3 of that, so multiply the price by 1.5, so 750, that would mean that that talent is worth 750 gold. If you want to look at it that way, I think it's fair to say that it's pretty not good. Now, the 2-second shield crash in ball is really sweet. What this actually means is the moment that you hit ball, this spell will never have a higher cooldown than 2 seconds remaining, period, until the ball is over. So if you use Shield Crash, hit ball, this will then go down immediately to his 2-second cooldown, and then 2 seconds into rolling, you can Shield Crash again. This is good for both mobility, being able to actually jump over cliffs more than one time per ball use is awesome. On top of this, if you get a Shield Crash just for damage on a single target, but then you're about to roll into more people, you can then Shield Crash on those more people to get a higher number of targets for, you know, leaving ball, having that Shield Crash buff on you, right, for a higher value. And then, of course, once you leave ball, if you do a Shield Crash right at the end of ball, you know, leaving it will still give you, you'll still have the benefit of the 2-second cooldown, right? That's what I'm trying to say. I got owned. I thought it would be an okay thing to go for. I actually thought I could have killed the Dark Willow on my own. I thought I could have bursted her. I was mistaken because she went mech. Sucks. But you know what? Sometimes you gotta do some dumb shit on a hero to really understand their strengths and weaknesses, you know? Sometimes you just gotta feed. So I think that 15 talent is, like, pretty undeniably the choice. Being able to ball every 2 seconds, or being able to Shield Crash every 2 seconds and ball. The level 20 talent, I click around a lot. It's hard to talk about talents in a game when you're looking at player perspective on me, because I'm never clicked on myself if I'm dead, ever, and I die a good amount, because I do dumb shit. So at level 20, you have two choices: 20 strength or 30 swashbuckle damage. I actually think both are quite good. 30 swashbuckle damage, of course, adds another 120 onto the total amount. I hate stairs, by the way. So one of the most important things about ball is that it's awful to use anywhere near the side of stairs. Be very careful using it right near the edge of stairs. So here we see I'm going on Monkey King, and he turns into a tree, and I swear to God I clicked on him, and it didn't attack. It still looked like it clicked on him after after he became a tree, but maybe I input a move command slightly too quickly. Also good, I like that we have this replay bug because I jump backwards. Great. Whoops. So back to this. 30 swashbuckle damage adds 120 onto the top end, which, again, if we add the 160 from that, we're almost doubling swashbuckle base damage with that talent plus diffusal blade, right? That's a lot of extra damage on swashbuckle. And if you're scaling swashbuckle, like, pretty much all you really want, all you need, I think, to scale swashbuckle is a diffusal blade, a casual javelin, and that talent. And I think swashbuckle is pretty much at max damage at that point. I think that's when it's ridiculous. But I do think that the 20 strength talent is generally better for an offlaner. If you are intending to go for swashbuckle cooldown at 25, I think you almost have to go swashbuckle damage. But I think if you're not sold on the 3-second swashbuckle cooldown, which, by the way, Rolling Thunder cooldown is also a sick talent. They're both really good. Then it's fair to go for 20 strength, because 20 strength is a lot of strength. This hero has not a very good strength gain. Well, I guess it's about average, right? 2.5. It's around average. And similar to the way that mana regen works now, health regen works the same way. Everything that gives health regen is flat, and then strength gives you percent. Obviously, the rate of flat, or of percent HP regen is much lower than the percent of mana regen per point, but it's still really good, right? So 20 strength gives you extra health regen, and that's about it, right? That's pretty much all strength gives you, but that's really good. So here you can see I'm rolling a bunch to try and find this Monkey King, and I do barely hit him. I jumped like a doofus, If I actually didn't jump, I would have bounced off that and turned around. But I guess it was okay. Right, because we retreat because we saw the storm coming. Yeah, okay. So at this point, basically all I'm trying to do as this hero is, you know, farm some camps, because his flash farm is very, very good. He has very, very good flash farm with Swashbuckle and Shield Crash. I mean, he does, you know, if they have mana, which let's just say they don't have mana, right, for the sake of argument. This is 312 plus 300, right? So 612 damage to creeps just by hitting these 2 buttons. That's enough to clear pretty much every wave for the whole game. You know, except for, you know, obviously super and mega creeps, but normal waves, it is definitely enough to clear it. Good fear from the Dark Willow, but Ursa jumped in real deep, got on the Dark Willow real fast, then Meepo poofed in and just picked up the Arc Warden, who was already very low. So yeah, at this point I'm looking for a Shiva's Guard. The reason I'm looking for a Shiva's Guard is because I actually think it is very good on this hero. It gives Int, which is mana and mana regen. You know, that's already very good. On top of that, the active for Shiva's is sick. If I can remember where things are. There's missing staff. So the active on Shiva's is, of course, the 200 magical damage and slow for 4 seconds in an expanding AoE. You can use all items while balling. I do think that there is an argument for going Blink Dagger on this hero. I think in a good amount of games it is the item. I didn't go for it this game, mostly because I thought I would really never be able to blink. They have so much long-range poke that it's going to be really hard to actually blink when I want to blink. And it's easy enough to just roll in, right? So yeah, the Shiva's active is very good because you can use it while rolling, and that also gives you, you know, the vision, the flying vision, so I can find the Monkey King theoretically and roll into his tree. And if I roll into his tree, it'll stun him from my roll. I don't think it will stun him from the tree being broken, though. I think that time that I did it earlier was the only time it happened this whole game, and I don't think he was stunned for the 4 seconds or 5 seconds or whatever it is. On top of that, of course, you get the Int, which I already talked about being good. You get the Armor, which is great. It's more tankiness. And then the Freezing Aura, so attack speed of enemies is reduced by 45 as long as they're near you. And the entire point of Pangolier is to exist in a team fight, right? You just want to exist in a team fight. Soak damage, deal damage if possible, which in most cases it is very possible to deal a lot of damage. But you thrive in chaos, right, is how I would say Pangolier likes to play. And because you're always in the action as this guy, right, you're darting around the action, you're very slippery, and it's very easy for you to stay alive while still being near enemy heroes. You're pretty much always going to have that aura out on enemy heroes. And in this game, it's very important. Storm Spirit relies on attack speed quite a bit. Monkey King, same story. Arc Warden, same story. Willow and Venge, not so much, but it is still good against those heroes. Their team is very heavily physical-based. Even Storm Spirit is a lot of physical damage. He's pretty close to, well, I guess it depends at what stage in the game, but he's generally pretty close to a 50-50 mix of physical and magical damage. So anything to reduce physical damage is actually pretty good against Storm. So as you can see, I'm almost level 20. I wanted to go on Dark Willow, but she had a feeling about it. She backed off a little bit too much. So there's level 20. I go for the strength. 20 strength is a lot, you know? I have over 2,000 health here with basically no health items. I just have 10 strength from Basher. So it is very possible to get very tanky on this hero. And then on top of that, obviously, I get the extra HP regen, which this guy definitely suffers for not having a lot of health regen. His base health regen is very not great. Definitely not as good as other offlaners. But he does make up for it in his effective HP to like single hits. He has very good EHP. Even if you only shield crash 3 targets, right? I mean, that's still 42% damage reduction for 10 seconds, right? That's unreal. If you have 5 targets, it's 70%. And if there's a Meepo on the enemy team, then you can actually get to 100% damage reduction for 10 seconds, which is absolutely ridiculous, right? You won't hit that many heroes with a shield crash. But if you do, shit's ridiculous. It is dispellable, however. So you know, if they actually have somebody with dispels, then you can definitely get owned. So, okay, worth noting, by the way, I'm fairly certain this is a bug, but Shield Crash, despite doing magical damage and having no other reason that it would ever not work, it doesn't deal damage to decrepified units, to ethereal units. It actually deals no damage to them for no apparent reason at all. Definitely seems like a bug. There's no reason it shouldn't damage them. So, as it currently exists, Pangolier basically can't do anything to decrypt or ethereal units. Which of course means there's some anti-synergy with Pugna here, but it's not the end of the world. We're not really focusing the same targets most of the time. Or at least I'm not normally focusing decrypt targets. It's just in edge cases it can be pretty bad. I also think this hero is very good for high ground pushes, once you have Basher, for example, because of the ability to just jump forward, swashbuckle, and just walk away. Very good pokes. It's a lot of damage, like I previously said. And if you get a bash, then it can actually be an opening for your team to jump in. If somebody has, say, a blink dagger, and you know you want to go on a target, they can do something like that, except onto a bashed target, which is pretty sweet. So at this point, we weren't really sure if we wanted to go high ground or not. We kind of just poked around a bit. We were hoping that our Meepo would ever join us, but he never did this game. He doesn't even have Boots of Travel yet, I think. Yeah, he's on the bottom. He does not have Boots of Travel yet. This is pretty funny. The Monkey King tries to TP out, but because I intentionally hit right there so I could turn around quickly, I was able to stun him again. So let's talk about the mechanics of Rolling Thunder, because this thing is sick. So it does damage, and actually quite a bit. It's 300 damage, same as Shield Crash. So if you hit a target with both, then it's 600 magical damage, which is sick. And you can do that theoretically every 2 seconds. And the reason that you can do that theoretically every 2 seconds is, well, one, Shield Crash has a 2-second cooldown when you take the talent while you're rolling. And on top of that, the way Rolling Thunder works is it'll knock them up and back and stun them. And you can only hit them with Rolling Thunder again after that stun duration is over, which is roughly 2 seconds later. So if you actually are in, say, the Roche Pit, you get to just ping-pong around and obliterate people. I mean, like, straight obliterate. So I was hoping for a bash. So that's 5 hits, no bash. Do I even actually get a 6th? I thought damn. So I guess he was zipping at the good times. Okay, that's not as unlikely as I thought in the moment. I thought that I hit him 6 times, at least, and maybe 7. It was hard to tell, because I did get the attack off, like, literally, you know, this guy has a very quick start of attack. He's actually very good at last hitting, theoretically. And because of that, even though Storm was canceling my attack command on him, it looked like I was still getting it, because the attack would go through on a creep, you know, at pretty much only moments after it would have gone through if I was hitting Storm. So it was just his timing was really good, and I got tricked. So only 5 hits, no bash. That's not super unlikely. I was really hoping for a bash, though. Also hoping for a TP. But I don't think I communicated well enough, really, at that point. So, yeah, in the meanwhile, of course, we had 2 heroes die in mid, which is pretty rough. And then at this point, Lime was asking whether or not he would be able to kill one of these 2 heroes. And I was like, maybe Venge, but he doesn't have a basher, so it's actually like pretty hard. He would also have to pop BKB, but then Pugna's moving in as well, but both of them are running away, so really no chance of actually killing them. But I'm alive in 5, and for no apparent reason, Willow is running straight to the shrine. So I start TPing ASAP. I then start heading to the top, not only so I don't get bashed by the Cursed Crown, but also to cut off the Dark Willow. Get a free cleanup. And back to hidden creeps. So you'll notice a lot of what I'm doing as this hero is, like I said, you basically just show up for quick engages, go back, and just hit creeps, right? Because again, your flash farming is very good. It's very easy to quickly clean up a creep wave. You just hit your 2 buttons, it's dead, right? You can then do it again 10 seconds, or I guess 13 seconds later. Theoretically 8 seconds later, and then like 1 or 2 auto attacks on every melee creep on top of the swashbuckle. So at this point I have my Shivas done. As you can see, I'm very tanky at this point. I have 64% physical resist, and then of course I have the potential defenses from Shield Crash. So it's actually really hard for me to die to physical damage as long as I can get into the fight and use Shield Crash. And I do think that that's one of the reasons that Blink is quite good on this guy. Playing him kind of like a Brewmaster, where you blink in and then hit your AoE magical nuke thing. The main difference is that Brewmaster can follow that up with Split, and you can't really follow it up with Rolling Thunder. I mean, you can, but if they interrupt the Rolling Thunder in the 1.2 transform time, you then do not roll, right? It'll fully cancel it, take the cooldown, all of it. Even though he is magic immune, or spell immune, more specifically, while he is actively rolling, in the wind-up, he could be interrupted. And again, if he does get interrupted, then he will not actually ever be able to get the roll-off in that fight, right? It'll go on 40-second cooldown, which is pretty rough. It's a rough life for this guy. But it's okay. It's okay, because as long as you're rolling Thundering before actually going into the fight, or specifically waiting for stuns to be used and then starting to channel Rolling Thunder, and even in a chaotic fight, sometimes people won't even notice that you're starting the wind-up. So Hero's like, I got Arc Warden, let's go. But then Venge showed up, and I was like, maybe not. And the Storm zipped on me, and I'm like, alright, I'm backing out. But we have an Ursa. Arc Warden already got picked off. Vengeful Spirit is the next target. I was really hoping we would kill her. I fucked up with my angle. I wanted to hit both Venge and the Storm, and I thought Venge would actually cut on the top side of that tier 3 in mid. So I messed that up. It is actually pretty hard to properly vector target. And here I was just like, I'm going in, team! But I made some bad mistakes. And you can see there how it bounced me in a really bizarre angle. Specifically, corners are awful for this, for Rolling Thunder. So the way that it works is that your hitbox is still a circle, which I'm not saying that that's wrong, right? Obviously your hitbox is a circle, but, or I guess your hurtbox, and your hitbox is a circle. But, so because it's a circle, this actually means that you can effectively go past a wall, right? And get half of your model past that wall, but still get bounced backward, because the 90-degree angle from forward on your hurt box touches the wall, right? Does that make sense? So around staircases, it's most noticeable and very clunky to use. And I hope they smooth that out, at least in some way. Because, as you saw there, on that corner by the fountain, I actually not only got bounced off it once, but immediately bounced off it a second time, which I don't think should ever happen. Obviously, it's a pretty hard thing to actually fix. So, you know, I'm not expecting it to come quickly, but I do hope eventually that gets fixed. As you can see, Dark Willow has a really hard time of actually just killing people. She does a lot of damage to single targets, but if they pop BKB, she actually deals no damage to targets. Like basically actually zero. The only damage she'll deal is physical, which she can scale it pretty well, going like a Bloodthorn, for example, and she has pretty good int gain, but normally her physical damage is quite low, and as such, if you just pop a BKB, she just cannot kill you. So Hero and Vanguard, I wanted to go for the Abyssal as fast as possible. Vanguard, also great item on this hero. Ice 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 said on Twitter that he thinks Vanguard is overkill. And I think that is generally correct, but it does allow you to be super tanky, right? It allows you to get to a point where you can pretty much throw caution to the wind and just be in a fight. Obviously, if you play smart with Shield Crash and you hit it on, you know, a large number of targets, you don't really need the Vanguard, but it is still a nice thing to get. Of course, it gives you flat health and HP regen, both being quite good for this hero, as he lacks a bit of them. And then, of course, on top of that, you have a 50% chance to block damage. 70 damage per attack, which, if you buy this early, you're pretty much invincible to physical damage. I believe the block happens after the reduction to Shield Crash. I could be incorrect about that, but if it does work that way, then with Shield Crash up and a Vanguard out, normal auto attacks deal a tremendously small amount of damage to you. So here, I intentionally went for the bounce off that wall, and then I went for another bounce and was hoping that the stun would wear off Dark Willow in time, but it didn't. Didn't really matter, though. We have enough control, just fighting in the Monkey Pit. Going on Monkey because he's trying to TP out. Going on Venge now. Clean 4 up at this point. It's like, yeah, we could just win. But I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to go top. Because I wanted, I wanted to get level 25. This game was looking pretty much in the bag at this point. I wanted 25. They had 4 dead. We had 5 alive. I didn't think the team necessarily needed me to push mid with them, and I wanted to get 25. For 25, I already kind of talked about it. Swashbuckle cooldown is very good. It brings us down to a 5-second cooldown. If you are trying to scale Swashbuckle, if that's your end goal, obviously go Swashbuckle cooldown. I think in most cases, 12-second Rolling Thunder cooldown is the way to go. That puts it down to a 28-second cooldown with an 8-second duration. This means that it only has a 20-second cooldown after it finishes, which means that you can actually use it multiple times in a fight and just pop it literally every single skirmish. You could already pop it pretty much every skirmish, but with the cooldown, you can absolutely pop it every skirmish. Now, one thing worth noting that I'm sure you just noticed is, for some reason, Rolling Thunder just rolls through structures. I don't know why, but it does. It just goes straight through all structures. It's very peculiar, but you know, that's the way it is. They started DCing. They were salty, so he started barn farming them. And you know what you do to salty people is you attempt to get them more salty. That's the way that you play Dota. At least that's the way I play Dota. I don't know about you guys. And as such, you'll notice when we end the game, I drop one specific thing in all chat that is guaranteed to make somebody salty. Guaranteed. You'll see it. It's going to be great. So as you can see, even the fountain, which has been buffed, mind you, is actually not that good at killing me. Right? I was pretty tanky. Just because of that Vanguard. So anyway, we can look at the stat screen real quick. Go to the scoreboard and peep this shit, fam. So, in general, GPM I kept pretty high. Despite my terrible start. Again, flash farming potential for this hero means that GPM and XPM can actually be kept up quite a bit once you hit mid-game. He can accelerate a lot. Damage-wise, I did actually more than Lime on Ursa. I did less than our position for Pugda, which is something. It's very peculiar. And the only hero I didn't actually get a last hit on was Arc Warden. It's kind of, you know, something. And then we can look at skill build real quick if you want to just blindly copy-paste what I did. I went Swashbuckle, Crash, Crash, Buckle, Crash, Thunder, Buckle, Buckle, Crash, Mana Regen, Piercer, etc. Shield Crash CD, Strength, and Rolling Thunder cooldown. And that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. I might make more of these on specifically Pangolier because I did download a couple replays of some, I guess, top-tier players, high MMR players, playing him in pubs and actually doing very well with relatively similar skill builds and item builds to me. So if you're interested in that, leave that in the comments. I'll talk over those as well. And that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this type of video. I plan to make a lot more of this kind of video in the future. Just talking about Dota stuff, maybe analyzing replays. Who knows? We will see. But that is it for now. Thank you so much for watching again, and I'll see you later.